The tablet glowed in our darkened bedroom at 2:47 a.m., casting shadows across Alyssa's sleeping face. She'd forgotten to close the app again. My wife, the HR director who preached digital security at work, couldn't remember to log out of anything at home. I reached for the device, intending to plug it in and let her sleep. The screen showed a dating profile I'd never seen before. My heart hammered against my ribs as I read the bio. Love hiking on weekends, obsessed with true crime podcasts, can't function without morning coffee, and yes, I still laugh at dad jokes. Looking for someone who appreciates sarcasm and spontaneous road trips. Every detail described me perfectly. Our weekend hikes, my terrible jokes, the true crime obsession we shared. Even the part about sarcasm. Alyssa always said my wit was what attracted her in college. Except for one crucial detail: relationship status, single. I stared at the screen, my mind refusing to process what I was seeing. Married 15 years, 2 kids sleeping down the hall, and my wife was advertising herself as available. The profile photo showed her at last month's company picnic, the one where I'd taken the picture. My hands trembled as I scrolled through her matches. Dozens of them. Men with gym selfies, business suits, motorcycles. All of them messaging her variations of the same pickup lines. All of them believing she was free. "Rowan?" Alyssa stirred beside me. "What are you doing?" I closed the app quickly, my heart pounding. "Just checking the weather for tomorrow." She mumbled something and rolled over. Within minutes, her breathing returned to its steady rhythm. But I lay awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every late night at the office, every girls' night out that had become increasingly frequent. When morning came, I made coffee with shaking hands and watched Alyssa get ready for work. She hummed while applying makeup, the same tune she'd hummed on our honeymoon. The normalcy felt surreal. "You look tired," she said, kissing my cheek before grabbing her purse. "Maybe you should take a day off." After she left, I sat in my home office and opened my laptop. As an IT project manager, I understood digital footprints better than most people. If Alyssa was living a double life, there would be traces everywhere. I started with our shared accounts. The credit card statements showed charges I didn't recognize, restaurants I'd never been to, purchases at stores we didn't shop at. A pattern emerged. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, charges appeared at upscale places across town. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister Miriam. "Still on for lunch today?" I'd forgotten completely. "Rain check?" Something came up. "Everything okay?" I stared at the question for a long time before typing back, "I'll call you later." The tablet sat on my desk, taunting me. I opened the dating app again and created a fake profile using photos from my college days and a different name. The bio was simple. New to the area, looking for genuine connections. Within an hour, I had matches. The algorithm worked fast in our mid-sized city. I scrolled through faces, looking for one in particular. When Alyssa's profile appeared in my queue, I felt something cold settle in my stomach. I swiped right. The match notification appeared instantly. She was online, probably at work, probably bored between meetings. My phone showed her typing, then stopping, then typing again. "Hi there. Love your smile. What brings you to our little city?" I crafted my response carefully. "Work transfer. Still figuring out the local spots. Any recommendations for someone who loves hiking and has terrible taste in jokes?" The reply came quickly. "Ha, I know the perfect trails, and I happen to appreciate bad humor. Fair warning, though, I might steal your worst dad jokes for my own use." She was flirting with a stranger using the same playful tone she'd once used with me. The same jokes, the same interests, the same personality, packaged for someone new. Over the next few days, we exchanged messages. She told Jake about her job, her love of weekend adventures, her 2 kids who were the light of her life. She mentioned being divorced, An amicable split, she claimed, where both parties had simply grown apart. Divorced. Not separated. Not in the process. Divorced. I sat in my office reading her lies, while she texted me from downstairs asking what I wanted for dinner. The strangest part was how good she was at it. The fake relationship with this imaginary version of me felt more alive than our real marriage had in months. She asked Jake thoughtful questions, shared funny stories, sent good morning messages. All the attention I'd been craving, she was giving to a stranger. On Thursday evening, she announced another girls' night with Natalie. I watched her get ready, choosing her outfit carefully, applying perfume I'd bought her for Christmas. "Don't wait up," she said, kissing my forehead. "We might catch a late movie." 20 minutes after she left, Jake received a message. "Rain check on our phone call tonight. Friend emergency, but I'm thinking about you." I drove to the restaurant where our credit card had been charged the previous Thursday. Alyssa's car sat in the parking lot, next to a red Mustang. Through the window, I could see her laughing at something the man across from her was saying. He was everything I wasn't. Broad shoulders, perfect teeth, the kind of confidence that filled a room. I sat in my car for an hour, watching my wife on a date with another man, while she texted apologies to the fake person I'd created. That night, she came home smelling like cologne and wine, claiming Natalie had been such a mess over her latest relationship drama. She fell asleep immediately, exhausted from her performance. I lay awake, making plans. The next morning, I scheduled a date with Jake. "There's this little bar downtown," I typed. "Nothing fancy, but they make great cocktails. Tomorrow night?" "I'd love that," she replied. Finally get to meet the mysterious Jake in person. I spent the day preparing. If Alyssa wanted to play games, I'd show her how the game was really played. Saturday evening, I told Alyssa I was meeting Dave for drinks. She barely looked up from her phone, probably texting Jake about their upcoming date. "Have fun," she said absently. "Don't let him talk you into staying out too late." The bar was crowded, filled with the usual weekend mix of couples and singles. I chose a corner table with a clear view of the entrance and ordered a whiskey. My hands were steady now, the nervous energy replaced by cold determination. Alyssa arrived 15 minutes late, scanning the room for Jake. She'd chosen a black dress I'd never seen before, her hair styled in loose waves. She looked beautiful, the way she used to look when she was getting ready for our dates, back when we still had dates. I watched her check her phone, probably wondering where her mystery man was. After 10 minutes, she ordered a drink and settled in to wait. I pulled out my phone and opened the dating app. "Running a few minutes behind," I typed. "Guy in the corner booth looks just like my ex-husband. Weird coincidence." She glanced around the bar, her eyes passing over me without recognition. Amazing how invisible a person could become in their own marriage. "Small world," Jake replied. "What are the odds?" She relaxed, laughing at her phone. "Right? Anyway, I'm at the bar. Red top, dark hair, can't miss me." I looked at her outfit again. Black dress, not red top. Even her descriptions were lies now. "Actually," I typed, "I think I see you, but I have to ask, are you sure you're divorced? Because that guy in the corner looks like he's wearing a wedding ring just like the one you described your ex-husband having." Alyssa's smile faded. She looked at her phone, then around the bar again. This time, her gaze lingered on me. "That's impossible," she typed back. "My ex doesn't even know about this place." "Maybe you should ask him," I replied. "He's looking right at you." She turned in my direction, and our eyes met across the crowded room. The color drained from her face as recognition dawned. Her phone slipped from her fingers, clattering onto the bar. I stood up and walked over, each step deliberate and measured. The whiskey had steadied my nerves, but my heart was racing. "Hello, Alyssa," I said, sliding onto the bar stool next to her. "Fancy meeting you here." She stared at me, mouth slightly open, like a fish gasping for air. "Rowan, I can explain." "Can you?" because I'd love to hear how you explain being divorced when we're still married, or how you explain describing me perfectly in your dating profile while pretending I don't exist. Her face cycled through emotions: shock, fear, anger, and finally, defiance. You were spying on me. I was using our shared tablet. You know, the one we bought together for family use? You forgot to log out. Again. That doesn't give you the right to create a fake profile and trick me. I almost laughed. Trick you? Alyssa? You've been living a double life for months. You're on dating apps, meeting men, lying about our marriage, and I'm the one who's wrong? She grabbed her purse, but I caught her wrist gently. We're not done talking. Let go of me. Not until you explain who the guy in the red Mustang is. Her face went white. What? Thursday nights. The restaurant charges on our credit card. The cologne you come home wearing. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? She pulled free and stood up, swaying slightly. This is insane. You're being paranoid. Am I? Because Jake here, I held up my phone, showing our conversation, seems to think you're available, single, ready to start fresh with someone new. People at nearby tables were starting to stare. Alyssa noticed and lowered her voice. We can't do this here. Why not? Isn't this where you bring all your dates? Or is this spot reserved for Jake? She was crying now, mascara streaking down her cheeks. You don't understand. We've been growing apart for years. I felt invisible in my own marriage. So you made yourself visible to everyone except your husband. It's not that simple. It is that simple. You're cheating on me, Alyssa. You're lying to our kids. You're planning to leave and you didn't even have the decency to tell me. She wiped her eyes with a cocktail napkin. How long have you known? Long enough to realize that the woman I married doesn't exist anymore. A man appeared at Alyssa's shoulder, tall, muscular, the same guy from the restaurant, the red Mustang owner. He looked at me with barely concealed contempt. Everything okay here, Alyssa? She nodded quickly. Trent, this is Rowan. Trent's expression shifted to something like amusement. The ex-husband. Got it. He looked me up and down dismissively. Maybe it's time to move on, buddy. She's made her choice. I stood up slowly, meeting his gaze. Has she? Because last I checked, we're still married, still living in the same house, still raising kids together. Not for long, Trent said. Is that right? I turned to Alyssa. Is there something else you'd like to tell me? She couldn't meet my eyes. I was going to talk to you. When? After the divorce papers were filed? After you'd moved in with your boyfriend here? Trent stepped closer. Look, man, this is awkward for everyone. Why don't you just walk away and let the adults handle this? I smiled, feeling something dark and cold settle in my chest. Adults? You mean the kind of adults who sneak around behind their spouse's back? The kind who lie to their children? That kind of adult? Watch it, Trent warned. Or what? You'll steal my wife? Too late for that threat. Alyssa grabbed Trent's arm. Let's just go. Good idea, I said. But Alyssa, we will finish this conversation. At home. Tonight. She shook her head. I'm staying at Natalie's. No, you're not. You're coming home to explain to Jake and Ella why Mommy has been lying to everyone. You wouldn't. Try me. They left together, Trent's hand possessively on Alyssa's back. I finished my whiskey and ordered another, watching through the window as they argued in the parking lot. Whatever Trent was saying, Alyssa didn't like it. She kept shaking her head, gesturing toward the bar. My phone buzzed with a text from her. We need to talk, but not tonight. I need time to think. I typed back. You've had months to think. Time's up. The response came quickly. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Harder than what? Harder than discovering my wife is living a secret life? Harder than finding out she's been planning to leave me without even discussing our problems? How exactly could this be harder, Alyssa? No response. I drove home through empty streets, my mind spinning with possibilities. The house felt different now, not like a home, but like a stage where we'd been performing a marriage that had ended months ago without my knowledge. Jake was in his room playing video games, headphones on. Ella was reading in bed, her door cracked open. "Hey, Dad," she called out. "Where's Mom?" "She's out with Aunt Natalie. She'll be home later." "Okay. Can you check my math homework tomorrow? I think I messed up the word problems." "Of course, sweetheart." Such normal requests, such ordinary moments. How was I supposed to protect them from what was coming? I sat in my office and opened Alyssa's dating profile again. She'd updated her status to taking a break from dating. Too little, too late. But I was just getting started. Sunday morning arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood perfectly. Alyssa came home around 10, looking like she'd slept in her clothes. The kids were watching cartoons, giving us a buffer of normalcy while we figured out how to destroy each other. "We should talk," she said quietly. "Yes, we should." We went to the kitchen, the same place where we'd planned family vacations and discussed school events and argued about whose turn it was to take out the trash. Now it felt like a courtroom. "I never meant for you to find out this way," she began. "How did you mean for me to find out? When the divorce papers arrived? When you moved out? When the kids asked why Daddy doesn't live here anymore?" She poured coffee with shaking hands. "I was going to tell you." "When?" "Soon. I just needed to figure out how." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "How about this? Rowan, I've been cheating on you for months and I want a divorce." Simple, honest, novel concepts, I know. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You met someone. You decided you wanted him instead of me. Everything else is just elaborate justification. She sat across from me at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten thousands of meals together. "We've been unhappy for years." "Have we? Or have you been unhappy and assumed I was too?" "Come on. When's the last time we really talked? When's the last time we went on a date? When's the last time you tried? Because I've been right here, Alyssa. I've been asking you out. I've been trying to plan trips. I've been suggesting we spend time together. You're always too busy, too tired, too stressed. That's not fair. What's not fair is discovering that you have plenty of energy for Trent, plenty of time for dating apps, plenty of enthusiasm for planning a future that doesn't include me." Tears started again, but I felt no sympathy. I felt trapped. "So, you decided to trap me instead. Let me live in a marriage that was already over. Let me keep trying to fix something you'd already abandoned." "I didn't know how to tell you." "You didn't want to tell me. There's a difference." She wiped her eyes with a dish towel. "What happens now?" "Now? Now I decide whether to make this easy for you or difficult." "What does that mean?" I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. "It means you have a choice. We can do this quietly, mediation, shared custody, split everything down the middle, or we can do this the hard way." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm offering you options. But understand this, if we do it the hard way, everyone will know exactly why our marriage ended. Your parents, our friends, your co-workers, the kids' teachers, everyone." Her face went pale. "You wouldn't." "I would, because I'm done protecting your reputation while you destroy our family. Think about Jake and Ella." "I have been thinking about them. Every day for 15 years. Where have you been?" She stood up abruptly. "I can't do this right now." "Then when? When can you fit honesty into your busy schedule of deception?" She left the kitchen without answering. I heard her upstairs, probably packing a bag. The kids were still absorbed in their cartoons, oblivious to the fact that their world was crumbling in the next room. After she left, another emergency with Natalie, I went to my office and began the real work. As an IT professional, I knew that digital privacy was largely an illusion. especially in a marriage where everything was shared: accounts, devices, passwords, locations. Alyssa had been sloppy, leaving breadcrumbs everywhere. I started with our phone records. The patterns were clear once you knew what to look for. Clusters of calls and texts to the same number, always during work hours or late at night. I cross-referenced the number with social media and found Trent Masters, divorced, corporate sales, exactly the kind of guy who drove a red Mustang to compensate for whatever he was lacking. His social media was a treasure trove of information. Photos at the same restaurants where our credit card had been charged. Check-ins at hotels during Alyssa's work conferences. Comments from mutual friends about his new girlfriend who was finally getting divorced. Finally getting divorced, as if it was a foregone conclusion. I dug deeper into our shared accounts. Alyssa had been careful, but not careful enough. She'd used our joint email to create accounts on multiple dating sites. She'd saved contact information for divorce attorneys. She'd even looked up apartment listings in Trent's neighborhood. The most damaging evidence was in her cloud storage, screenshots of conversations with friends, planning her exit strategy, discussions about how to manage Rowan during the transition, jokes about my reaction when I found out, speculation about how much alimony she could get. They'd been laughing about me. All of them. While I was working late to pay for family vacations and school supplies and the life we'd built together, they were treating me like a punchline. I copied everything to a secure drive and started making plans. Monday morning, I called in sick to work and visited a lawyer. Patricia Chen had handled my sister's divorce 2 years earlier, sharp, thorough, and utterly without sentiment when it came to marital dissolution. "How long has this been going on?" she asked, after reviewing the evidence I'd gathered. "At least 6 months that I can prove. Probably longer." "And she's been planning to file for divorce without discussing it with you?" "Apparently. I found saved drafts of emails to attorneys." Patricia leaned back in her chair. "This is good for you. Very good. The adultery, the deception, the financial planning behind your back, all of it supports your position." "What's my position?" "That depends. What do you want?" I thought about it. What did I want? A week ago, I would have said I wanted my marriage back. I wanted the woman I'd fallen in love with to remember why she'd chosen me. I wanted our family intact. Now, I wanted her to understand what she'd thrown away. I wanted consequences for her choices. I wanted her to feel as small and invisible as she'd made me feel. "I want her to know that actions have consequences," I said finally. Patricia smiled. "I can work with that." We spent the next hour discussing strategy. Patricia would file a response to any divorce petition Alyssa might submit, including all the evidence of her affair and deception. We'd seek primary custody based on her unstable lifestyle choices. We'd request alimony based on the career sacrifices I'd made to support her advancement. "One more thing," Patricia said, as I prepared to leave. "Document everything going forward, every conversation, every text, every interaction with the children. If this gets ugly, and it probably will, you want a complete record." I drove home feeling lighter than I had in weeks. For the first time since discovering Alyssa's profile, I felt like I had some control over the situation. That evening, Alyssa came home late again, claiming she'd been working on a difficult HR situation. She avoided eye contact and went straight upstairs to shower. I waited until she was asleep, then retrieved the tablet. Her dating profile was still active, though she'd removed most of her photos. The messages were still there, though. Months of flirtation with dozens of men. Detailed discussions about what she was looking for in her next relationship. Complaints about her controlling ex-husband who never appreciated her. I screenshotted everything and added it to my growing collection of evidence. Then I did something that felt both petty and satisfying. I created a new dating profile using recent photos and an honest bio. Recently discovered my wife of 15 years has been living a double life. Looking for someone who values honesty and isn't afraid of commitment. Fair warning, I'm going through a divorce, but I believe in being upfront about it. Within an hour, I had 3 matches and 2 messages. Apparently, honesty was more attractive than I'd realized. I wasn't ready to date anyone, might not be ready for months or years, but it felt good to know that someone found me worth talking to, worth getting to know, worth being honest with. Alyssa had spent months making me feel like I was the problem in our marriage, like I was boring, predictable, insufficient. But strangers who'd never met me were responding to my profile with interest and kindness. Maybe the problem wasn't me after all. Tuesday brought the first real test of my new strategy. Alyssa announced over breakfast that she needed to work late again, a crisis in the HR department that required her immediate attention. Another crisis? I asked mildly, buttering toast for Ella. You've had a lot of those lately. It's a busy time, she said, not meeting my eyes. What kind of crisis? She hesitated. Employee relations issue, very confidential. Of course it is. Jake looked up from his cereal. Mom, can you drive me to soccer practice Thursday? I'll have to check my schedule, Alyssa said. Dad might need to handle it. I can do it, I said. I'll pick you up after school. Thanks, Dad. Such ordinary family moments, made surreal by the undercurrent of deception. Alyssa was planning her exit while still playing the role of concerned mother. I was gathering evidence for a custody battle while making lunch plans. After everyone left, I called Alyssa's office. Hi, this is Rowan, I told the receptionist. I'm trying to reach my wife, Alyssa, but her direct line is busy. Could you transfer me? I'm sorry, Mr. Carrick, but Alyssa called in sick today. She won't be in until tomorrow. Interesting. Oh, she must have forgotten to mention it. Thanks anyway. I hung up and checked our joint credit card account online. Sure enough, there was a charge from this morning at a coffee shop across town, followed by a hotel booking for tonight. She wasn't working late. She was spending the day and night with Trent. I screenshotted the charges and added them to my evidence file. Then I did something that surprised even me. I drove to the hotel. The red Mustang was parked in the lot, just as I'd expected. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, debating whether to confront them or just document their presence. In the end, I took photos of both vehicles with timestamps and license plates visible, then drove home. That evening, I picked up Chinese takeout and had dinner with the kids. Jake was stressed about a history test, and Ella needed help with a science project about weather patterns. Normal parenting tasks that felt precious now, knowing how drastically our family structure was about to change. Where's Mom? Ella asked around a mouthful of looming. Working late. She said she might not be home until very late. She's been working a lot lately, Jake observed. Yes, she has. Is everything okay? You and Mom seem different. I looked at my 15-year-old son, who was more perceptive than I'd given him credit for. We're going through some challenges right now, but whatever happens between your mother and me, it has nothing to do with how much we love you. Jake nodded slowly. Are you getting divorced? The question hit me like a physical blow. Why would you ask that? Tommy's parents got divorced last year. They acted the same way before it happened. Lots of working late and weird conversations that stopped when he walked into the room. I set down my chopsticks and looked at both kids. Your mother and I are having some problems. I don't know yet what's going to happen, but I promise you'll be the first to know when we figure it out. Will we have to move? Ella asked quietly. I don't know yet, but wherever you live, you'll always be safe and loved. Can we stay with you? Jake asked. The question surprised me. Why do you ask? He shrugged. You're here more. You know our schedules. You help with homework and drive us places. Mom's been distracted. Out of the mouths of babes. After dinner, I helped Ella with her weather project, while Jake studied for his test. These were the moments that mattered, not the grand gestures or expensive vacations, but the quiet evening routine of family life. Homework help and bedtime stories, and making sure everyone had clean clothes for tomorrow. Alyssa had been absent from these moments for months, physically present, but mentally elsewhere. I'd been carrying the emotional labor of parenting while she planned her escape. Around 11, I got a text. "Working very late tonight. Don't wait up," I replied. "Hope the crisis gets resolved soon." No response. I stayed up until midnight, working on a presentation for my own job while monitoring the credit card account. At 11:47, there was a charge at the hotel bar. At 12:23, room service. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. Wednesday morning, Alyssa came home while the kids were getting ready for school. She looked tired but satisfied, like someone who'd had a very good evening. "How did the crisis turn out?" I asked. "What?" "The HR crisis, the one that kept you out all night." She paused in pouring coffee. "Oh, it's ongoing." "I'm sure it is." Jake appeared in the kitchen, grabbing his backpack. "Morning, Mom. Dad said you were working late." "Very late," she agreed. "But that's what happens sometimes in my job." "Must be exhausting," I said. "All those long hours, all that hands-on problem solving." She shot me a sharp look but didn't respond. After the kids left for school, we stood in our kitchen, in uncomfortable silence. The pretense was becoming harder to maintain, but neither of us was ready to abandon it completely. "We need to talk," she said finally. "About what? Your work schedule? Your dedication to employee relations?" "You know what? I know lots of things now. Which particular thing did you want to discuss?" She sat down heavily at the kitchen table. "This isn't working." "What isn't working? Your cover story? Your double life? Your marriage?" "Any of it. All of it." I sat across from her, studying her face. She looked older than she had a week ago, worn down by the effort of maintaining multiple versions of herself. "So what do you want to do about it?" I asked. "I think we should separate. Officially." "And then what?" "And then we figure out what comes next." "You mean you move in with Trent and I pretend this was a mutual decision?" Her face flushed. "It's not about Trent." "Isn't it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've already moved on. You're just waiting for me to catch up." "I need space to figure out what I want." "You've had space. You've had months of space while living a completely separate life. How much more space do you need?" She was crying again, but this time it felt manipulative rather than genuine. "Why are you making this so hard?" "Because you're asking me to cooperate in my own abandonment. You want me to make this easy for you while you destroy our family." "I'm not destroying anything. I'm trying to be honest about the fact that we're not happy." "You're not happy. There's a difference." "Are you happy, Rowan? Really? When's the last time you felt excited about coming home? When's the last time you looked forward to spending time with me?" The questions stung because they contained a grain of truth. Our marriage had become routine, comfortable but not passionate. But comfort wasn't the same thing as misery, and routine wasn't the same thing as failure. "I was content," I said finally. "I thought we were building something together, a life, a family, a future. I didn't realize you were shopping for something better. That's not what I was doing. What would you call it?" She didn't have an answer for that. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to move out. Today. You're going to find somewhere else to live while we figure out custody and finances. The kids will be fine. They'll stay here, in their home, with their primary caregiver. You can see them whenever you want, but you don't get to disrupt their lives any more than you already have. You can't just decide that. Watch me." She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "This isn't like you. You're right. The old me would have begged you to stay, would have asked what I could do differently, would have blamed myself for your choices." I leaned forward. But the old me didn't know he was married to a liar. She flinched as if I'd slapped her. "Pack a bag," I said. "Take whatever you need. We'll figure out the rest later." Where am I supposed to go? I'm sure Trent has room. Alyssa left that afternoon with 2 suitcases and a wounded expression that might have moved me a week earlier. Now it just looked like performance art, the wronged wife, forced from her home by an unreasonable husband. The kids took the news better than I'd expected, which said something about how obvious our problems had become. So, Mom's moving out? Jake asked. Temporarily, until we figure things out. And we're staying here with you? Yes. Good, Ella said firmly. This is our house. That evening, my sister Miriam came over with pizza and moral support. She'd been through her own divorce 2 years earlier and had strong opinions about marital deception. How are you holding up? She asked while the kids were upstairs. Better than I expected. Worse than I hoped. Have you heard from her? 3 texts asking about the kids' schedules and 1 asking where I put the good luggage. Miriam snorted. The audacity is breathtaking. The weird part is how normal everything feels. Like she was already gone and I just hadn't noticed yet. That's because she was already gone, emotionally anyway. You've been single parenting for months. It was true. I'd been handling school events, homework help, doctor appointments, and social schedules while Alyssa pursued her double life. Her physical absence didn't change our daily routine much. What's your next move? Miriam asked. Wait for her to file for divorce, then respond with everything I've documented. That's it? You're just going to wait? I considered the question. What else should I do? Make sure everyone knows why your marriage ended. Don't let her control the narrative. It was tempting advice, but I wasn't ready for that level of warfare. Not yet. Thursday brought the first real test of our new arrangement. Jake had soccer practice, Ella had a friend coming over, and I had a work deadline. The kind of scheduling juggle that Alyssa and I used to handle together. I managed it, but barely. Picked up Jake, dropped him at practice, came home to supervise Ella and her friend, went back to get Jake, stopped for groceries, helped with homework, made dinner, and finally sat down at my computer at 9 p.m. to finish the presentation that was due first thing Friday morning. This was my life now, single parenting with a full-time job and no backup. Around 10, Alyssa called. How did everything go today? She asked. Fine. Jake scored 2 goals at practice. Ella and Madison are working on a friendship bracelet project. Good. I was worried about the transition. Were you? A pause. Of course I was. They're my children too. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you started planning your exit strategy. Rowan, please. I'm trying to make this work for everyone. Are you? Because it seems like you're trying to make this work for you. That's not fair. You keep saying that. But nothing about this situation is fair, Alyssa. Fair would have been talking to me before you started dating other people. Fair would have been marriage counseling before you gave up. Fair would have been honesty before I had to discover your secret life by accident. I know I handled things badly. You didn't handle things badly. You handled them dishonestly. There's a difference. She was quiet for a long moment. Can I talk to the kids? I called them downstairs and handed over the phone. They chatted with her for a few minutes. School updates, plans for the weekend, normal parent-child conversation. When they handed the phone back, Alyssa sounded close to tears. They sound okay, she said. They are okay. They're resilient. I miss them. You could have thought about that too. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet house and wondered if I was being too harsh. Marriages ended all the time. People fell out of love. Maybe I should be more understanding, more willing to let her find happiness elsewhere. Then I remembered the months of lies, the secret dating profiles, the elaborate deceptions, the way she'd made me feel like the problem in our marriage while she was actively betraying it. No. Understanding was for people who made mistakes. Alyssa had made choices. Friday morning brought an email from Patricia Chen. Alyssa's attorney contacted me yesterday. She's filing for divorce next week. Are you ready? I wrote back, I've been ready since I found out she was already gone. The weekend passed quietly. The kids and I fell into new routines: pancakes on Saturday morning, grocery shopping together, a movie night with popcorn and commentary from Ella about unrealistic plot developments. Sunday afternoon, Alyssa came by to see the kids and collect more of her belongings. She looked tired and thin, like someone who wasn't sleeping or eating well. "How are you doing?" I asked, while Jake and Ella showed her their latest school projects. "I'm fine." "Are you? You look exhausted." She glanced at me sharply, probably wondering if I was being sarcastic. I wasn't. Despite everything, I didn't want her to suffer. I just wanted her to understand what she'd thrown away. "It's been an adjustment," she admitted. "Where are you staying?" "With Natalie, temporarily." Interesting. Not with Trent, then. Maybe the reality of divorce was different from the fantasy of an affair. "The kids miss you," I said. "I miss them too. You could see them more often. You don't have to wait for formal visitation schedules." "I know. It's just complicated right now." "Complicated how?" She didn't answer, but I could guess. Living with Natalie meant explaining her situation to mutual friends. Seeing the kids meant facing the consequences of her choices. It was easier to maintain the fiction that this was a mutual separation if she kept some distance. After she left, Ella asked, "Is Mom okay?" She seemed sad. "She's going through a difficult time," I said. "Because of the divorce?" "Because of the choices that led to the divorce." Jake looked up from his homework. "Do you think she regrets it?" It was a perceptive question from a 15-year-old. "I think she regrets how things happened. I don't know if she regrets the outcome." "Do you?" I considered it. "I regret that our marriage ended. I don't regret finding out the truth." That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat in my office and looked at the evidence I'd gathered. Photos, screenshots, credit card records, documented lies. Enough to destroy Alyssa's reputation and ensure I got everything I wanted in the divorce. But did I want to use it? A week ago, the answer would have been yes. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done. Wanted everyone to know who was really responsible for our family's destruction. Now, I wasn't sure. The kids would be caught in the crossfire of any public battle. And ultimately, the best revenge might be living well, being the parent they needed, building the life I wanted, moving forward while she dealt with the consequences of her choices. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Trent. We need to talk." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "No, we don't. It's about Alyssa." "What about her?" "She's not handling this well. The separation, the kids, any of it. That's not my problem anymore. Look, I know you hate me, but she needs help." I almost laughed. The man who'd helped destroy my marriage was asking me to fix his girlfriend's emotional problems. "She made her choices," I wrote back. "Now she gets to live with them." She made a mistake. She made dozens of mistakes, over months, while lying to everyone who cared about her. A long pause, then. "Can we meet, just to talk?" "About what?" "About how to make this easier for everyone." I thought about it. There was something appealing about facing down the man who'd helped wreck my life. Something satisfying about looking him in the eye and showing him I wasn't the weak, boring husband he'd probably imagined. "Fine," I wrote. "Tomorrow night, Murphy's Bar, 8 p.m. "Thanks." I set the phone aside and wondered what Trent Masters wanted to discuss, and whether I was ready for whatever he had to say. Murphy's Bar was the kind of place where middle-aged men went to drink away their problems. Dim lighting, worn leather, and bartenders who didn't ask questions. I arrived early and chose a corner booth where I could watch the entrance. Trent walked in exactly at 8, scanning the room until he spotted me. He looked different than he had at the restaurant. Less confident, more worn down. The Red Mustang owner was having his own rough week. He slid into the booth across from me without invitation. "Thanks for meeting me." "What do you want, Trent?" He ordered a whiskey from the waitress, then studied my face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Someone angrier. Someone more broken." I sipped my beer. "Sorry to disappoint you. Alyssa said you were controlling, emotionally distant, the kind of guy who made her feel invisible. And what do you think now?" He was quiet for a moment. "I think she was telling herself a story that made her feel better about what we were doing." "Interesting admission. What changed your mind?" "Seeing her this week, she's falling apart, and it's not because she's relieved to be free. It's because she's realizing what she threw away." "That's not my problem." "Isn't it? You have kids together. You're going to be connected to her for the rest of your lives." "Connected, yes. Responsible for her emotional well-being, no." The waitress brought his drink. He downed half of it before speaking again. "She wants to come home." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Did she send you here to tell me that?" "No. She doesn't even know I'm here. But she's been talking about it constantly. How she made a mistake. How she wants to fix things." "And what did you tell her?" "That she can't undo what she did. That trust, once broken, doesn't just magically repair itself." I studied his face, looking for signs of deception. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I don't want to be with someone who's in love with someone else." The honesty surprised me. "She told you she's still in love with me?" "She didn't have to. It's obvious." He finished his whiskey and signaled for another. "She talks about you constantly. Your routines, your inside jokes, the way you are with the kids. Half the time I felt like I was competing with a ghost." "You were competing with 15 years of history." "Yeah. Well, history won." We sat in silence for a moment. I tried to process what he was telling me. That Alyssa regretted leaving, that she wanted to come home, that her affair partner was ready to step aside. "What do you want me to do with this information?" I asked. "I want you to decide whether your marriage is worth saving." "She made that decision when she started seeing you." "People make mistakes." This wasn't a mistake. This was a months-long campaign of deception. She didn't slip and fall into an affair. She chose it, planned it, and executed it while lying to me every single day. "You're right. But she's also the mother of your children and the woman you loved enough to marry." "Loved. Past tense." "Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, you look like a man who's still in love with his wife." The observation hit closer to home than I wanted to admit. What I look like and what I feel are two different things. Are they? I didn't answer. The truth was more complicated than I wanted to acknowledge. I was furious with Alyssa, hurt by her betrayal, and determined to make her face consequences for her choices. But underneath all of that, I missed her. I missed the woman she'd been before she started living a double life. "She's staying with Natalie," Trent continued, "crying herself to sleep every night, staring at photos of the kids, talking about all the things she should have done differently. She could have done them differently. She chose not to. So that's it? No second chances? No possibility of forgiveness?" I looked at him, really looked at him. He was younger than me, better looking in a conventional way, probably made more money. Everything Alyssa thought she wanted when she decided I wasn't enough. "Why do you care?" I asked. "If she comes back to me, you lose her completely." "I already lost her. I just don't want to keep pretending otherwise." "That's very noble of you." "It's not noble. It's practical. I don't want to be someone's second choice." "Fair enough. What makes you think I do?" "Because you married her. Because you built a life with her. Because despite everything she's done, you're still here talking to me instead of just walking away." He had a point. If I'd truly written off my marriage, I would have hung up on him, blocked his number, refused this meeting. The fact that I was here suggested I wasn't as ready to move on as I claimed. "Even if I wanted to try again," I said, How could I ever trust her? How could I believe anything she says after months of elaborate lies? I don't know. That's between you and her. She destroyed our marriage. She doesn't get to decide when and how to fix it. No. But you get to decide whether it's worth trying. I finished my beer and considered his words. Part of me wanted to believe that Alyssa was genuinely remorseful, that her affair had been a terrible mistake rather than a calculated choice. But another part of me knew that regret wasn't the same thing as change, and wanting to come home wasn't the same thing as being trustworthy. What happens to you if she comes back? I asked. I move on. Find someone who actually wants to be with me instead of using me to escape their problems. That's a mature perspective. I'm a mature guy. Despite what you might think, I signaled for the check. I need to think about this. Fair enough. But don't think too long. She's not going to wait forever. She waited months to tell me she was unhappy. She can wait a little longer for me to decide what I want to do about it. We walked out to the parking lot together, two men whose lives had become entangled in the messiest possible way. His red Mustang looked smaller and less impressive than it had in my imagination. For what it's worth, he said, she never stopped loving you. That was always clear. If that's true, then what she did to me was even worse. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I can see that. I drove home through quiet streets, my mind spinning with possibilities I hadn't allowed myself to consider. Alyssa wanted to come home. She regretted her choices. She was ready to end her affair and work on our marriage. But was I ready to let her? The house was dark when I arrived. The kids were asleep, the babysitter had gone home, and I was alone with my thoughts. I sat in my office and stared at the evidence I'd gathered, all the proof of Alyssa's betrayal. Then I opened a new document and started writing, not a legal brief or a list of grievances, but a letter to my wife. All the things I should have said before she started looking elsewhere for connection. All the ways I'd failed our marriage, even if I hadn't betrayed it. I wrote for 2 hours, then deleted everything and started over. Some conversations were too important for email, too complex for text messages. If Alyssa wanted to come home, we would have to talk face to face, honestly and completely, about everything that had led us to this point. But first, I had to decide whether I wanted her back. I called Alyssa the next morning after the kids left for school. We need to talk, I said when she answered. About what? Her voice was cautious, guarded. About us. About what happens next. A long pause. Okay, when? Tonight, after the kids are in bed. Come to the house. Are you sure that's a good idea? No, but we're going to do it anyway. She arrived at 9, looking nervous and hopeful in equal measure. She'd lost weight in the 2 weeks since she'd moved out, and there were shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. We sat in the living room, the same room where we'd watched movies together, argued about household budgets, and made plans for our children's futures. Now it felt like neutral territory in a war neither of us had wanted to fight. Trent came to see me, I said. Her face went white. What did he tell you? That you want to come home, that you regret what happened, that you're in love with your husband instead of your boyfriend. She closed her eyes. I'm going to terminate him. Are you? Because everything he said sounded true. It is true. She opened her eyes and looked directly at me. I made a terrible mistake, Rowan. The worst mistake of my life. Which mistake? Starting the affair? Lying about it? Getting caught? Or leaving? All of it. But mostly, I made the mistake of thinking that what we had wasn't enough. That I needed something more exciting, more passionate, more... I don't know. More. And now? Now I know that what we had was everything. It was real and solid and worth fighting for, and I threw it away because I was bored and selfish and stupid. I studied her face, looking for signs of deception or manipulation. All I saw was exhaustion and regret. Tell me about the dating profile, I said. She flinched. What do you want to know? Why you describe me so perfectly while pretending I didn't exist? Because you were everything I wanted in a partner. You always were. But somehow I convinced myself that wanting you meant settling, that staying married meant giving up on passion and excitement. So you went looking for passion with strangers. Yes, and I found nothing. Just empty flirtation and meaningless attention from men who didn't know me or care about me. Except Trent. Trent was different. He seemed to understand me, to appreciate me in ways that I thought you didn't. What ways? She was crying now, but trying to hide it. He made me feel special, desired, like I was worth pursuing instead of just there. I stopped pursuing you because I thought I'd already won you. I thought we were past the chase phase and into the partnership phase. I know that now, but at the time it felt like you'd stopped seeing me as a woman and started seeing me as just a wife, a mother, a function instead of a person. I considered this. Did you ever think about talking to me about it? About telling me you needed more attention, more romance, more pursuit? I thought about it, but I was afraid you'd think I was being needy or demanding. So instead, you decided to get those needs met elsewhere. Yes, and it was the worst decision I've ever made. We sat in silence for a moment. Outside, a neighbor's dog was barking, and I could hear the distant sound of traffic on the main road, normal life continuing while ours hung in the balance. What do you want from me, Alyssa? I want to come home. I want to fix our marriage. I want to be the wife and mother I should have been all along. And what makes you think that's possible? Because I love you. Because you love me, even though you're trying not to. Because we have 15 years of history and 2 beautiful children and a life that's worth saving. We had all of that before. It didn't stop you from leaving. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I was confused and selfish and convinced myself that love wasn't enough. Was it enough? Before all this happened, were you happy? She thought about it. I was content, but I mistook contentment for complacency. I thought happiness had to be more dramatic, more intense. I didn't realize that contentment was actually a gift. And now? Now I know the difference between contentment and misery, between a real partnership and empty excitement, between love and infatuation. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our front yard. The grass needed cutting, and Alyssa's flower beds were starting to look overgrown, small signs of a household in transition. I don't know if I can trust you again, I said without turning around. I understand. Do you? Because trust isn't just about believing you won't cheat again. It's about believing anything you say, ever. You lied to me for months about where you were, what you were doing, how you felt about our marriage. You rewrote our entire history to justify your choices. You're right. I am right. And that means even if you came home tomorrow, I'd spend years wondering if you were telling me the truth about anything, where you really went to lunch, whether you were actually working late, if you meant it when you said you loved me. I would earn your trust back. How? She was quiet for a long time. I don't know. However long it took, whatever you needed me to do. That's not an answer. That's just words. I turned back to face her. She looked small and broken, nothing like the confident woman who'd been living a double life just weeks earlier. Here's what I know, I said. I loved you enough to marry you, to build a life with you, to trust you completely for 15 years, and you threw that away for excitement and validation from strangers. I know. I also know that despite everything you've done, I still love you, which makes me either very forgiving or very stupid. You're not stupid. Then I'm forgiving. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean pretending this didn't happen. I wouldn't want you to forget. I want you to remember so that I never make these mistakes again. I sat back down across from her. If you came home, And I'm not saying you can. Things would be different. We'd have to rebuild everything from the ground up. New rules, new boundaries, new ways of communicating. I understand. Do you? Because it wouldn't be the same marriage we had before. That marriage is over. This would be something new, something harder, something that required work from both of us every single day. I'm ready for that. Are you? Because it would mean giving up your privacy. It would mean transparency about everything. Where you go, who you talk to, what you do online. It would mean marriage counseling, and individual therapy, and probably years of difficult conversations. I want all of that. You say that now, but what happens in 6 months when the guilt wears off and the work gets boring? What happens when some other man makes you feel special and desired? That won't happen. You can't guarantee that. Nobody can. She leaned forward, her eyes intense. You're right. I can't guarantee that I'll never be tempted again. But I can guarantee that I'll never act on it, because I know now what I lose when I do. What do you lose? Everything that matters. My family, my home, my self-respect. The love of the only man who ever really knew me. I wanted to believe her. Despite everything she'd done, despite all the evidence of her capacity for deception, I wanted to believe that she'd learned something from this disaster. The kids would have to know, I said. Not the details, but the basic truth. That you had an affair, that you left, that you're trying to earn your way back. I know. They might not forgive you as easily as I'm considering forgiving you. I know that too. And our friends, our families, everyone would know that our marriage failed once. That we're trying again, but there are no guarantees. I can live with that. I studied her face one more time, looking for any sign that this was another performance, another manipulation. All I saw was a woman who'd lost everything and was desperate to get it back. I need time to think, I said finally. How much time? I don't know. This isn't a decision I can make tonight. She nodded and stood up. Can I hug you? I hesitated, then stood and let her wrap her arms around me. She felt familiar and foreign at the same time, the same height, the same scent, but somehow different, changed by everything that had happened between us. I love you, she whispered against my shoulder. I know you do. That's what makes this so hard. After she left, I sat in my quiet house and tried to imagine what our life would look like if she came home. Could we really rebuild trust? Could we create something better than what we'd had before? Or would we just be postponing the inevitable end of a marriage that had already run its course? I thought about Trent's words, that I looked like a man still in love with his wife. He was right. Despite everything Alyssa had done, despite all the reasons I had to walk away, I still loved her. The question was whether love was enough to overcome betrayal, whether forgiveness was possible without forgetting, whether a marriage could survive the kind of fundamental dishonesty that had characterized the last months of ours. I didn't have answers yet, but for the first time since discovering her dating profile, I was willing to look for them. I spent the next 3 days in a state of suspended animation, going through the motions of normal life while wrestling with the biggest decision I'd ever faced. The kids sensed something was happening. They were quieter than usual, more attentive, watching my face for clues about their future. Thursday evening, Jake approached me while I was making dinner. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course. If Mom wanted to come home, would you let her? I stopped stirring the pasta sauce and looked at him. Why do you ask? Because she called me yesterday. She sounded different. Sad, but also hopeful. She asked a lot of questions about how we're doing, whether we miss her, whether we think you miss her. What did you tell her? The truth, that we miss her, but we're okay. That you seem sad, but you're taking good care of us. He paused. Do you miss her? I turned off the burner and faced my son, this 15-year-old who was being forced to navigate adult complexities he shouldn't have to understand yet. Yes, I miss her, but missing someone and trusting them are different things. Because of what she did? Because of what she did. Jake nodded slowly. Tommy's dad took his mom back after she cheated. They seem happy now, but Tommy says it was really hard for a while. Lots of fighting and crying and weird rules. What kind of rules? Like, she had to tell him everywhere she went, and she couldn't have social media anymore, and they had to go to counseling together every week. I filed this information away. How does Tommy feel about it? He says he's glad they stayed together, but he wishes it had never happened in the first place. That makes sense. Yeah. Jake hesitated. I think I'd be glad if Mom came home, but I'd also be scared that she might leave again. The honesty in his voice nearly broke my heart. That's a very mature way to think about it. I don't want to be mature about it. I want to be a kid who doesn't have to worry about whether his parents are going to stay married. I'm sorry you have to worry about that. It's not your fault. Isn't it? Maybe if I'd been a better husband— Dad, stop. Jake's voice was firm. Mom made her own choices. You didn't make her do anything. Out of the mouths of babes again. That night, after the kids were asleep, I called Patricia Chen. How are you holding up? She asked. I've been better. I need to ask you something hypothetical. Shoot. If someone wanted to reconcile with their spouse after filing for divorce, what would that process look like? Legally, they'd withdraw the petition and start over. Practically, it would depend on why they separated in the first place and whether those issues had been resolved. And if there had been adultery involved, then I'd strongly recommend counseling before any reconciliation, and probably a post-nuptial agreement outlining expectations and consequences. What kind of consequences? Whatever the couple agreed on. Financial penalties for future infidelity. Custody arrangements that favor the wronged spouse. Basically, a contract that says, if you cheat again, here's exactly what happens. I thought about this. Would that hold up in court? If it was properly drafted and both parties signed willingly? Probably. But, Rowan, can I ask why you're considering this? A week ago you were ready to take her to the cleaners. A week ago I thought our marriage was completely over. Now I'm not sure. What changed? She did. Or at least, she says she has. Patricia was quiet for a moment. I've seen a lot of marriages end, and I've seen a few survive infidelity, the ones that make it have a few things in common. Such as? Both parties have to want it to work. The unfaithful spouse has to take full responsibility without making excuses. The betrayed spouse has to be willing to forgive without constantly punishing, and both have to commit to doing the hard work of rebuilding trust. How often does it actually work? Honestly, not often. Most people say they want to reconcile, but they're not willing to do what it takes. Either the cheater gets tired of being under scrutiny, or the betrayed spouse can't let go of the resentment. So you'd advise against it? I'd advise caution. And if you do decide to try, I'd insist on that post-nuptial agreement. You need protection if she betrays your trust again. After we hung up, I sat in my office and made a list. Pros and cons of reconciliation, like I was evaluating a business decision instead of the future of my family. Pros. I still loved her. The kids wanted their family back together. We had 15 years of history worth saving. She seemed genuinely remorseful. Cons. She'd lied to me for months. She'd been willing to destroy our family for an affair. I might never trust her again. She might cheat again. The lists were roughly equal, which meant the decision would have to come from somewhere other than logic. Friday night, Alyssa came to have dinner with the kids. I watched her interact with Jake and Ella, patient, attentive, fully present in a way she hadn't been for months before she left. Whatever else had happened, her time away had reminded her what mattered. After dinner, she helped Ella with homework, while Jake and I cleaned the kitchen. "She seems different," he observed quietly. "Different how?" "More here. Like, actually paying attention instead of thinking about something else." He was right. The distracted, distant woman who'd been planning her escape was gone, replaced by someone who seemed desperate to reconnect with the life she'd abandoned. After the kids went to bed, Alyssa and I sat on the back porch with coffee. The evening was warm, and I could hear crickets in the yard we'd landscaped together 5 years earlier. "I've been thinking about what you said," I told her. "About rebuilding from the ground up. And I think I'm willing to try, but I have conditions." Her face lit up with hope. "Anything. Don't agree until you hear them, because they're not negotiable." She nodded, suddenly serious. "First, complete transparency. I get access to your phone, your email, your social media accounts. No privacy, no secrets, no girls' nights that I can't verify." "Okay." "Second, counseling. Individual for both of us. Couples counseling together, as long as it takes." "Yes." "Third, a post-nuptial agreement. If you cheat again, you get nothing in the divorce. No alimony, minimal custody, no claim on the house or my retirement accounts." She swallowed hard. "That's severe." "It's protection, for me and for the kids, because I won't go through this again." "I understand." "Fourth, you tell the kids the truth. Age-appropriate, but honest. They need to know why you left and why you're coming back." "That's going to be hard." "It should be hard. Actions have consequences, even with our children." She was crying again, but she nodded. "What else?" "That's it. Those are my terms. And if I agree to all of them? Then we try. We work on rebuilding trust and see if we can create something better than what we had before. And if we can't, then at least we'll know we tried everything." She was quiet for a long time, staring out at the yard where our kids had played and grown up. "I accept your terms. All of them? All of them. Even though it means giving up your privacy indefinitely? Even though it means admitting to Jake and Ella that you made terrible choices? Especially those things, because that's what accountability looks like." I studied her face in the porch light, looking for any sign of reservation or resentment. I saw only determination and something that looked like relief. "Okay," I said finally. "Let's see if we can save our marriage." She reached for my hand, and after a moment's hesitation, I let her take it. Her fingers were cold despite the warm evening, and I could feel her trembling. "I won't let you down again," she whispered. "You better not, because there won't be a third chance." "I know." We sat in silence, holding hands for the first time in months, both of us probably wondering if we were making the right choice. But for the first time since I'd discovered her dating profile, I felt something other than anger and hurt. I felt hope. The road ahead would be difficult. Months or years of rebuilding trust, of learning to be honest with each other, of creating new patterns to replace the ones that had failed us. But maybe, if we were both willing to do the work, we could build something stronger than what we'd lost. Maybe love really was enough, as long as it came with honesty, commitment, and the wisdom to know that marriage wasn't just about feeling good. It was about choosing each other, every day, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. "When do you want to come home?" I asked. "Tomorrow? Next week? Whenever you're ready." "Come home Sunday. That gives us the weekend to prepare the kids and figure out the logistics." "Sunday," she repeated, like she was afraid to believe it. "Sunday." She squeezed my hand. "Thank you for giving us another chance." "Don't thank me yet. Thank me in a year if we're both still glad we tried." "I will be. We'll see." But despite my caution, despite all the reasons this could fail, I found myself believing her. Maybe that made me naive, or maybe it made me wise enough to know that some things were worth fighting for. Either way, we were about to find out.